When you think of luxury cars, your mind jumps to names like Rolls-Royce, Bentley, and maybe even Ferrari. But hidden in the shadow of those giants is a brand with a story so wild that it sounds like fiction: Maybach. But the question is, how did a German tank engine manufacturer become a hip-hop status symbol? Why did their first big comeback flop so badly, despite being backed by one of the world's biggest car makers? And what made their second revival so subtle, yet so successful? You might have seen the Maybach logo on the back of a Mercedes and wondered, wait, what even is that? It's easy to forget this brand even exists. But once upon a time, Maybach wasn't just a badge, but a legend. From building aircraft engines for the German army to being name-dropped by Rick Ross, Maybach's path has been anything but normal. It's a story of power, failure, reinvention, and image. And the truth is, most people don't even know it happened. In today's video, we're breaking down the whole story, from Zeppelin engines to rapper anthems, and how Mercedes-Benz transformed Maybach from a forgotten relic into one of the world's most elite automotive names. This isn't a surface-level look, we're going deep. From 1909 to today, this is the wild journey of a brand that died and returned more potent than ever. Let's get into it. To understand Maybach, we have to go way back, 1909 to be exact. That's when Wilhelm Maybach, one of the most brilliant engineers of his time, teamed up with his son Karl Maybach to build something new. Their mission wasn't luxury, it was innovation, starting with engines for Zeppelins, those giant airships that once ruled the skies. Their company was initially called Luftfahrzeug Motorenbau GmbH. Yeah, that's not the most marketable name, but what they built, that was unforgettable. They developed high-performance engines that powered Germany's most advanced airships. If it needed to fly, and fly smoothly, it required a Maybach engine. Soon, their engineering genius demanded a new frontier, the automobile. In 1921, Maybach introduced its first car, the W3, at the Berlin Motor Show. It wasn't just a debut, it was a statement. The W3 had innovations unheard of at the time: a planetary gearbox, four-wheel braking, and a silent, luxurious ride. It instantly positioned Maybach as a serious player in the luxury market. Through the 1920s and 30s, the company released models like the DS7, DS8, and the elegant SW38. These weren't just vehicles, they were symbols of power, handcrafted for nobility, industrialists, and anyone who needed their presence to be known before they even stepped out of the car. Each Maybach car was made to order, often featuring interiors lined with rare wood, silk, and leather. A Maybach was anything but ordinary, even when cars were becoming more common. But then, history shifted. With the outbreak of World War II, luxury took a back seat. Maybach's factories started producing engines for German tanks, including the notorious Panther and Tiger. These machines were devastating, and their power was fueled by Maybach engineering. From airships to armored vehicles, Maybach had mastered motion. But by the war's end, the brand wasn't making luxury anymore. It was synonymous with machinery built for war. A golden age had ended. After World War II, Maybach was a name caught in limbo. Their factories were damaged, their luxury cars were history, and their association with wartime production left a legacy that was hard to shake. Once a symbol of German engineering excellence, Maybach had become a brand without a future. For decades, the company kept a low profile. Its engineering expertise didn't disappear, it just shifted into more utilitarian industries. It built industrial engines and marine systems and continued powering machinery behind the scenes. But luxury, that was gone. Everything changed in 1960 when Daimler-Benz, the parent company of Mercedes-Benz, acquired the remnants of the Maybach brand. But instead of rushing out new cars, Daimler took a different approach. They absorbed Maybach's DNA into their operations. Maybach's craftsmanship and engineering began influencing top-tier Mercedes models, especially the W108 and later the W116, which were quietly enhanced with features born from Maybach's luxury legacy. These weren't full Maybachs, but they carried the brand's spirit, premium finishes, bespoke features, and tech ahead of their time. The brand's talent also spread into the broader Daimler ecosystem, even touching Jaguar, where Daimler had partial involvement for a time. It wasn't flashy, but Maybach was slowly reattaching to the luxury world, one component at a time. Behind closed doors, Daimler strategists and designers asked, could Maybach be revived? Should it be? In an era where Rolls-Royce and Bentley dominated the upper tier of luxury, Mercedes needed something more. The S-Class ruled the executive segment, but there was a ceiling, and Maybach could break through it. By the 1990s, the market was shifting, and wealth was growing globally. A new generation of buyers wanted status symbols, and Mercedes needed a badge that screamed ultra-luxury. That's when the spark hit. Maybach wasn't just history, it was potential. A quiet revolution had begun. The next chapter would be bold and public. In the late 1990s, Mercedes-Benz was watching the luxury battlefield evolve. BMW had taken over Rolls-Royce, Volkswagen grabbed Bentley, and both brands were gearing up for dominance in the ultra-premium segment. Mercedes? They had the S-Class, sure, but it wasn't enough. They needed something that could rival royalty. So, Daimler did something bold. They reached into their historical archives and pulled out a name that had been dormant for decades: Maybach. At the 1997 Tokyo Motor Show, Mercedes unveiled a Maybach concept car that turned heads. It was enormous, futuristic, and packed with features that made even a private jet seem essential. And by 2002, the production versions were ready: the Maybach 57 and the Maybach 62. These weren't just cars, they were statements of power and elegance. The numbers 57 and 62 referred to their lengths in decimeters, 5.7 meters and 6.2 meters. That made the Maybach 62 one of the most extended production sedans ever built. Inside, it was pure indulgence. Think hand-stitched leather, exotic wood trims, champagne coolers, massaging rear seats, and even voice-controlled window tinting. These weren't features, they were experiences. Mercedes wasn't just selling a car, they were selling an environment. To build hype, they leaned into celebrity marketing. Jay-Z, Rick Ross, and Kanye West all dropped Maybach references in their music. Athletes and moguls started showing up in them. It looked like a winning formula. But the market had other ideas. Despite the jaw-dropping features, the Maybachs still looked too much like elongated S-classes. For buyers in the ultra-luxury segment, brand perception mattered more than horsepower. The Rolls-Royce Phantom commanded attention with its bold presence and iconic grille. The Maybach, it didn't turn enough heads. On top of that, the price was steep, well over $350,000. That placed it directly in Phantom territory, without the same street cred or mystique. It was like trying to sell a luxury yacht with a Toyota badge. Even if it's built better, it's not the same. Daimler aimed for 2,000 annual sales worldwide, but never came close. Some years, they sold less than 200. By 2012, the writing was on the wall. Maybach had failed, again. Production was quietly ended. The ultra-luxury gamble had flopped. But unlike before, Daimler didn't discard the brand altogether. They went back to the drawing board, studied what worked, what didn't, and in the quiet aftermath of failure, they started planning a more brilliant comeback, one that would finally stick. After the standalone Maybach brand flopped, Mercedes-Benz had a decision to make: bury the name forever or rethink the strategy. They chose the latter. But instead of positioning Maybach as a separate competitor, they had a better idea: make it a halo for Mercedes, not a different brand, but the pinnacle of the brand. In 2015, they executed that plan to perfection. They debuted the Mercedes Maybach S600, a stretched, elevated version of the already beloved S-Class. But this wasn't just about more legroom. It was about reinventing luxury for a new era: more refinement, more personalization, more status. And this time, it clicked. Maybach was no longer trying to compete with Rolls-Royce on presence or with Bentley on sportiness. Instead, it found its niche: quiet luxury with unmatched comfort, wrapped in the reliability and global trust of the Mercedes badge. Celebrities embraced it fast. Maybach became synonymous with modern success. It wasn't just in lyrics, it was in music videos, Instagram posts, and red carpets. The cultural cachet skyrocketed. Then came the GLS 600, the first ever Mercedes Maybach SUV. And it delivered. Think reclining executive seats, massagers, a refrigerator, and energizing comfort modes that adjust lighting, scent, and music. Suddenly, people weren't just being driven, they were experiencing something. And Mercedes didn't stop there. They went even bolder. Enter the G650 Landaulet, a Maybach-branded open-roof version of the G-Class, with ultra-luxury finishes and a price tag north of $500,000. Only 99 were made, and everyone sold out. Exclusivity was back in the game. But it wasn't just about flash. Mercedes started listening. Maybach customers wanted more than luxury. They wanted legacy with innovation. So, Mercedes announced the Maybach EQS SUV, their most luxurious electric vehicle ever. It redefines what it means to ride in an EV. Nearly silent cabins, augmented reality displays, and sustainability without compromise. Maybach wasn't just keeping up, but pushing the luxury frontier forward. By 2022, the results were undeniable. Mercedes-Maybach was thriving, with record sales in markets like China, South Korea, and the Middle East. The brand had achieved what it couldn't in 2002, and most importantly, the perception had shifted. Maybach wasn't just a car for the old money. It had become a symbol of new power, quiet dominance, and global prestige. Now, every S-Class generation comes with a Maybach edition, and you can customize almost everything. Leather color, stitching style, and even bespoke emblems. You're not buying a car, you're commissioning an experience. So, what changed? Mercedes learned that Maybach didn't need to lead. It needed to elevate. No more overpromising, no more confusion, just excellence. Maybach didn't come back louder, it came back wiser. So, how did Mercedes-Benz revive Maybach? Not with hype, not with standalone factories, but with strategy, humility, and precision. Maybach's first resurrection in the early 2000s failed because it tried to compete directly with brands with decades of cultural dominance. Rolls-Royce had presence, Bentley had performance, and Maybach had engineering. And while that's impressive, it wasn't enough to spark desire. But Mercedes learned. They didn't scrap the brand, they refined the vision. Instead of asking, how can Maybach stand alone? They asked, how can Maybach elevate what we already do best? That shift changed everything. Reborn as a sub-brand under the S-Class and GLS platforms, Maybach became a luxury within a luxury. You weren't buying a new brand. You were getting the top tier of a trusted one. The Maybach badge stopped trying to be flashy and became understated opulence in a world where subtlety is the new flex, which worked brilliantly. Today, Maybach is more than a car. It is a status language. It tells the world you've made it, but don't need to yell about it. It's power without pretense. And the results? They speak louder than any ad campaign. Maybach sales are booming in markets like China, the Middle East, and North America. The sub-brand now stands proudly among the top-tier luxury elite. What's more impressive is that it's done while riding alongside the Mercedes star, not in its shadow. Maybach's evolution has been wild, from tank engines to champagne fridges, from Zeppelins to EVs. But more than a brand comeback, it's a masterclass in rebranding, repositioning, and resilience. So, would you choose a Maybach over a Rolls-Royce or Bentley? Let us know in the comments. And hey, if you enjoyed this story, smash that like button, subscribe, and stay with us because we've got more automotive legends and brand comebacks coming your way.